So just to give you a really quick roadmap of what we're going to do. Oh, actually, let me start off by asking, would you mind raising your hand if you've worked with USDA before? Maybe you've participated in a program? Okay. Or come to talk to us in our offices? Okay. There's a good number of folks. Or you tried, and we'll talk about that too today. But what we're going to do is just give you a really quick introduction into what we do as a department, and we're going to follow kind of a roadmap of a journey that you might, enter into with USDA. So what does it look like to get started working with us? What does it look like to come into the office for the first time? We're going to talk about our programs. And then for those of you who are participating in our programs now, we're going to ask something of you. So there are leadership opportunities at the department, ways for you to get involved and make your voice heard, affect the way policies and programs roll out on the ground, and we want to talk to you about that and how you can participate. Okay? I put this in here as a reminder to myself. We are going to try and reserve the last 20 minutes or so for questions, so I would ask that you hold on to your questions. At your table, there are some note cards, so if you want to write down your questions on those, we'll also take questions with mics at the end, and then collect the note cards to read through those, okay? I would also ask, if you are asking a question about a specific situation with your participation in our programs, our staff will be here after the workshop. We've also got folks at the booths out front, and we'd be happy to take your question and talk one-on-one on those later. Okay, so just a really quick introduction into what we do at USDA. We do a whole lot of stuff. Like any other federal department, we have a whole lot of different offices. But we really focus on 4 things here. One is strengthening American agriculture, so supporting America's farmers and ranchers. We invest in rural communities and help them thrive. We help protect our food security, and we also help farmers steward the land. I just realized I can't see the slides. If you are a farmer or rancher, you'll most likely interact with these 3 offices, or we call them agencies, in your local community. So we've got the Farm Service Agency, or FSA, as you may have heard a lot of folks refer to us, the Natural Resources Conservation Service, or NRCS, and RD, Rural Development. We've got Farm Service Agency folks as well as Natural Resources Conservation folks here on the panel today. And if you're gonna come into our offices, most likely you'll interact with us through the service center first. So if you're looking for your local service center, we have offices that reach and serve every county in the U.S. You can go onto USDA's main site. There's an office locator there, and that's really how you can get in touch and figure out kind of which office you should start with. I will say that not all of our service centers have all 3 of these agencies located in that location. So that's also, really important to do is when you are interested in coming in, take a look at what agencies are available in that location. And then just to give you a sense of, who else is available in a state to help you, most of our field-based agencies have something called an outreach coordinator or an outreach specialist. And that's somebody and our outreach specialist for Texas is in the room here. Where did Eddie go? Oh, there he is. And so these are folks who, often work with beginning farmers, military veteran producers, folks who may need a little bit more help in navigating all the programs that we have and figuring out who they need to talk to. Oftentimes the state outreach coordinator is a good person to start with, and all those folks' information is posted online. Okay? Just make sure I'm on track here. If you're ready to come into our office, you're certainly not required to make an appointment, but we do recommend that you do so. Our offices have busy times during the year. We want to make sure that you get prompt service. Another reason that would be good to make an appointment would be because we do have staff who specialize in specific programs, and we want to make sure that if you're coming in, that the right person is there to answer your questions and talk to you. Okay? I'm sorry, I can't see the slide. Yes. Oftentimes, one of the first things that you're going to do when you start a relationship with us is get a farm number. And that happens with the Farm Service Agency, or FSA. And what that really means is that you come into our office and you tell us a little bit about yourself. You tell us, what you farm and where you're farming, and we get you registered in our database, map it all out, and that really gets you set up to participate in most of our programs. Even if you work with some of our other sister agencies like Natural Resources Conservation Service, we do ask that you get a farm number, and so at some point you will come to us. So that's just, it tends to be one of a good first thing to do. So when you come in, you want to get a farm number. We ask that you bring in some documentation. So we want to see proof of identity. We want to see some documentation related to the land that you're farming on. You do not have to own land in order to participate in our programs. And then if you have any documents related to the business entity of your operation, we ask that you bring that in as well. Just a couple tips for success, if I have those memorized. If you have, say you get started working with us, you're participating in our programs, one of the things that we really ask you to do is to stay in touch with us. So we want to know how you're doing, the good and the bad. And the reason for that is because our programs are really designed to help you get started and help you grow. And we're not able to take advantage of all the tools within our programs if we don't know the situations that are taking place on your farm. So for example, if you have a loan with us and you think that you may have issues repaying that loan, we want you to talk to your loan officer about that, because there are tools within our programs that we can use to help you. Another way for you to stay in touch with us is to file acreage reports annually. Your local office can talk to you about what that is and what the deadlines are for filing acreage reports. And what that essentially means is that in any given season, we want to know what you're farming and where. And that sets you up to be able to participate in some of our other programs like disaster assistance, should there be a natural disaster or something like that. You can also sign up for newsletter updates from USDA. From each of our agencies, we all issue newsletters, oftentimes at the local level as well. You can go to USDA's website, scroll down to the very bottom, there's a button that says subscribe or get updates from USDA, and that'll allow you to tailor. I was just talking with a farmer, I don't know if Ralph is in the room from Virginia, but he was just telling me about how he gets regular updates from USDA by text message. So when a new program rolls out, there's deadlines coming up. If there's program updates that you need to know about, us having your contact information and being able to reach out to you is really important. And then last but not least, just in that vein of good communication, we want to also make sure that you know that you are entitled to something called a receipt for service. So anytime you interact with our offices, you can receive essentially a receipt of what happened during your visit, and that is just good record keeping for all of us. Okay, and just a little bit of troubleshooting. We are a customer service oriented agency. That's why we're located in counties, in local communities. We're there because we want to see you and talk to you face to face. We hope that things go well, but we do acknowledge that sometimes we hit some road bumps and some challenges. And so, in the event that something like that happens, we want to make sure that you know what you're entitled to and also where you can turn to for help. So, know your rights. One of the things that we just talked about is receipt for service, being able to get a receipt, a record of your visit and what you came into the office for, what you submitted to us, etc. Something that you can also ask for is if you're filling out a program application. So for example, if you want to apply for a loan from Farm Service Agency, you can ask your loan officer for help in filling out that application, for assistance in walking you through that process. If you do receive a loan denial or a program benefit denial, you can appeal that, and that's something that we want to make sure that you know as well. We want you to reach out for help. So in the event that something doesn't work, say there's a customer service issue or a challenge that you feel like maybe isn't getting addressed in your local office, we hope that you'll give us a chance to correct that. and address it. So, there's a manager in every office. For Farm Service Agency, we call them county executive directors. Please speak up and let us know when there is an issue so that we have a chance to deal with that. And to make sure that we clear up, if there's any communication, misunderstandings or things like that, that we get a chance to address that with you. Our state office contact information is all posted online for both Farm Service Agency as well as Natural Resources Conservation Service. If you feel like there's something that, you do need to elevate, that contact information is available for you to reach out as well. And then last but not least, a lot of you all have relationships with organizations like the Farmer Veteran Coalition, with ATRA Arm to Farm. I saw a lot of different organizations out walking the halls today. We also have relationships with those nonprofits, with those organizations, and oftentimes they can serve as a bridge, helping to maybe translate and make sure that we're all on the same page. And so we'd encourage you to also reach out to your local organization, your farm organization that you work with. They can often help us troubleshoot a little bit and make sure that that relationship with you stays solid. Okay? Okay, so I feel like I just went through a whole lot of information, but just some real basics. We want to get to know you. Please come into our offices and talk to us. If you don't have a farm number and you're farming, please come in, get a farm number, come in and build relationships with us. And then, maybe the most important thing that I also want to say is, our offices have a lot to learn from you as well. You are often doing really new and innovative things, and we don't get to hear about those unless you come in and tell us about it. So I'd encourage you to please come in, get to know your local service center. Okay, and with that, I'm gonna engage our panel here. Why don't we just go down the line, if we can start with Jolie, and if each of you would just take 10 to 15 seconds, introduce yourself. So who you are, agency you work for, if you're a farmer, what you grow or raise, and then we'll get started with some questions.
All right, I'm Jolie Lightrock, and I'm Western Regional Director for the National Payables Division. And as Esther mentioned, there are times where you may hit some bumps in the road. Those are probably fewer, hopefully, than that's hopefully not the case too often, but if there is, then we're here. So with that, I'll move on.
Hello, I'm Andrew Sanchez. I'm out of New Mexico. I run 60 head of cattle on a family ranch. I'll be the 6th generation taking it over. That was the whole reason I joined the military, because I wanted nothing to do with raising cattle. And then after being deployed and seeing everything else, I was like, hey, you know what? That wasn't a bad life to grow up on. So I'm back there now. I've done a couple of EQIP projects, and I've applied for some of the CSP and some of the rural stuff, and been denied, got some, been denied for others. So I'm just here to answer any questions or give my point of view.
I'm Jeremy Hasty. I'm the district conservationist for the Natural Resources Conservation Service in our Lockhart field office here in Texas. Been working for them 13 years, and I'm here going to give a brief overview of our programs, what we have to offer, especially for veterans.
Thanks, Jeremy.
My name is Roel Garzon, Farm Loan Chief in Texas, USDA Farm Service Agency. I'll be speaking to you here in a little bit about our farm loan programs. That's it.
Scott Reed, I'm a program chief in Texas State FSA office. Also am an active farmer and rancher on the weekends. I go home and help my brothers, so I'm going to be talking to you about some of our disaster programs that we have to offer.
Yeah, Josh Eilers here, owner of Ranger Cattle. We supply beef in the city, and I'm just going to share with you my thoughts on the programs, what works, what doesn't work, my experience, how I've used them to operate in the past, and how I plan to use them in the future. And I'm also an elected onto the board with a county committee for Travis County, so I represent Eastern Travis County at the the Farm Service Agency level, I guess. So I sign a lot of papers for farmers, and I like it.
We are nothing without our paperwork. Okay, thank you all. So a really great panel of folks here, and we've got a lot to cover. So I'm going to go ahead and start with Roel. And if, Roel, if you would, talk a little bit about Farm Service Agency, what we do, and then, you oversee farm loan programs for Texas. So if you wouldn't mind just talking a little bit about our loan programs, giving folks an introduction.
Okay, so as I said, my name is Roel Garza, and I'm Farm Loan Chief in Texas. We're part of, or we are Farm Service Agency, and Farm Service Agency is a twofold agency. I say a little while ago, it was mentioned that if you come into the loan service center or to the USDA service center, that you would see the CED. So I don't mean to correct you, but I will.
Oh, sorry, go ahead, yes.
We have a CED in every county office, which is the county executive director. But if you're coming in to talk about farm loans, you would talk to the farm loan manager or the farm loan officers. And in Texas, for example, we have 32 service centers to handle 168, 173 county offices. So you can see that we have multiple counties out of one service center. Anyway, so there's some definitions up there, but before I get to those, we offer, or we try to make loans, and we service the loans. We have direct loans, and we also have guaranteed loans. The focus right here is going to be direct loans. We do direct operating loans, which can be utilized for annual operating expenses, typically repaid back after the harvest has come in. That's a one-year loan. You can pay for leases, seed, feed, fertilizer, anything that you need for operating capital. There are some times when we might extend that out to try to fit your operation. You're trying to establish a certain crop or commodity. We do them on term loans also, up to 7 years for the purchase of machinery, equipment, livestock. I'll get to that slide here in a little bit. So, and also refinancing some agricultural debt that's non-real estate. We also have farm ownership loans. And let me go through the definitions. The slide's a little bit out of order. So a beginning farmer is an individual or an entity who has not operated a farm or ranch for 10 years or more. And operated is a key word here. You'll hear the word operated, and you'll hear the word participated. And so two different things there. A beginning farmer is someone who has not operated or been the owner of an operation. Or a veteran farmer, according to the 2018 Farm Bill, is someone who served in the armed forces, has not operated a farm or ranch for 10 years or more, has attained the status of a veteran within the last 10 years, and historically is an underserved group, historically underserved group, SDA, socially disadvantaged would be our minorities. Yes, sir, I see your hand has been raised.
About old veterans that haven't been doing this.
Old veterans?
Yeah, it says the last 10 years, I've been out 40 years.
You're still considered a veteran. It's just a definition that was put in for veteran farmer. It's a new definition for us. We're not excluding any veterans whatsoever, regardless of when you served.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
And I would also just clarify that's a definition that was placed in the Farm Bill by Congress. So that's kind of how we operate our programs, is according to the definitions they've given us.
If I might, just because I'm with you, FSA and Bill Ashton on that. If you're a veteran and you've been out more than 10 years, those benefits, at a higher payout or whatever, do not apply.
We can probably address that on the natural resources conservation side with some of our cost share payment programs.
Okay, that may be a little different under NRCS as far as Farm Service Agency is concerned. Irregardless of your status, whether it's 10 years or 20 years or 30 years, you're a veteran irregardless. So we don't.
Payouts don't apply.
Our loans.
Okay, I'm sorry, loans.
Yes, sir. Our loan would be no different. I'm a veteran myself, so I can't use myself and say I'm the other guy, right? But so there's not going to be a different interest rate for a veteran. There's not going to be a different interest or how much a veteran can borrow versus anybody else. Our program runs across the board. There are some benefits to being a veteran when it comes to the purchase of, say, some inventory property we may have that you may get get offered first to purchase inventory property. That's just an example.
My bad, I was talking about FSA.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I apologize, because I was actually going to talk about FSA and some of the payouts, like NRCS and other.
So, sorry, just for time management, and I'm sorry, I do know that there are questions and we want to be able to address those, but why don't we, let's go through some of the material that Roel wants to cover, because it may be that he will answer your question, and then we'll tackle any other questions at the end, okay?
Okay, so FSA is supervised credit, meaning that unlike a banker or just a commercial lender, FSA is a little more detailed and has a little bit more oversight over the operation. That does not mean that we're not going to allow you to operate how you need to operate, but we are supervised credit, so we have a little bit of control on the money, and so however it's being used. That doesn't mean you have to bring in a receipt for every little purchase that you make, but we do offer not only in supervised credit is the analysis of your operation. So we do have services or the expertise to offer you some advice and try to push along. Now, in no way is it our operation. It's your operation. You run it. We're just handling the financial side of it and try to keep things in line and try to make you successful with what we know and the knowledge that we have. Okay, so direct loans, as I mentioned, they can be used to purchase. Operating loans are up to $400,000 now, and I say now because that came about with the 2018 Farm Bill. And farm ownership loans are $600,000, and micro loans in the new Farm Bill allows us to lend $50,000 for farm ownership and $50,000 for operating loans, whereas before it was a combined amount of $50,000. Purchase equipment, machinery, and livestock, as I mentioned, is under the operating loan. Pay operating costs, as I mentioned, feed, seed, fertilizer, et cetera, are your annual operating loans. And then you've got the purchase of land or real estate or soil and water conservation practices or making capital improvements to your real estate would fall under the farm ownership loan, and that can be up to $600,000. Micro loans, the same purposes. As a direct, there's still a direct loan, it's just at a smaller scale. It is a streamlined application. That means rather than, and don't, this is just, I'm exaggerating, our paperwork's really not this thick on direct loans, but in comparison, our microloan is a little bit smaller, it's a little faster process. It accommodates farmers that may have faced barriers in the past. So FSA does have a family farm definition, and prior to the microloan, someone that was wanting to raise maybe a couple of heifers and some chickens and a small garden was considered a rural residence and didn't fit into our farm into our loan program. With the microloan, we're able to accommodate that kind of an operation, a niche market per se. All our loans do require some kind of farm experience. Ownership loans require managerial experience, and working with a mentor may help, and that's more along the microloan. Again, so here's the guarantee loans, just a quick overview. Guarantee loans are loans that you as an individual, as an applicant, would be the banker's customer, not our customer. And the bank is our customer. So all we're doing is guaranteeing any loss that may or may not happen, may happen in case the loan were to default. And after liquidation, there was a balance left over, then FSA, of course, would pick up that and pay a loss claim on that. And those guarantees can be up to 95% in some cases. And so our guaranteed lending limits are currently $1,776,000. That can be guaranteed or combined with FSA. So let me say, when we talked about the direct loans, you can have a combination of direct loans. So you could actually have an operating loan, a livestock loan, and a farm ownership loan. In addition, you could have a combination, say an equipment loan with FSA, and perhaps the bank would be financing the operation. So we could have a guaranteed loan and a direct loan. Easy guarantees are up to $100,000, and those are lenders. That's a program for the lender, kind of a streamlined application process on a smaller scale. Each year, Congress targets percentage of farm ownership and operating loan funds to beginning farmers, minorities, women, and ranchers. Emphasis is we talk about veterans, so anytime we talk about targeted funding, it's not a difference in interest rates or terms, but rather monies that, and I always say that there's a large pot and it's full of money, and so targeted beginning farmer, for example, there's an allotment that's taken out of that, and that's targeted for them, or SDA farmers, and that's what we're talking about, targeted funding. We are starting to see more of an emphasis to try to make loans to veteran farmers, and the microloan is one that's kind of kicked off, and it kind of gives you a starting point. There is some managerial experience or farm experience that can be substituted, and it allows maybe for a starting point on a smaller scale. You can always move up to the larger loans. As I said, we could have a combination of loans. So you might start with a micro loan and then move on up to, as the operation expands, you could certainly go on to a regular operating loan and touch on those larger funds or availability of funds. I don't want to get too deep into managerial and farm experience, but there are some substitutions in our eligibility criteria, and we would be glad to talk to you about eligibility at our booth, or after we're done here, just pull one of us off to the side. We'd be glad to discuss that with you in further detail.
So,
And with that said, I'm going to just...
yeah, if you wouldn't mind handing that over to Scott, and then, because I've been hearing in the hallways today, I've just been hearing hemp being whispered by every fifth person, and we've gotten quite a few questions at our booth as well. Roel, can you just talk a little bit about whether or not producers can actually apply to FSA for a loan for hemp production?
Okay, so, so we're in Texas. And so I'm going to kind of use Texas as a model, but USDA, of course, we will accept an application if you're interested in hemp production. In Texas, we do not have permits, contracts that would be issued by the Texas Department of Agriculture. So a complete application with USDA, a Farm Service Agency, would require that you've met all your state requirements, number one. For our complete application, that would require permit being given to you, and also that you were able to obtain contracts, and a contractor that was reliable and a viable source of income. So if you were to submit an application to us today, we would take that application. You would more likely get an incomplete letter from us allowing you 20 days to get complete. You would try to get a permit from TDA, which you probably would not at this point. And you would get an additional 10 days to get complete, at which time, if you didn't get complete because you were not able to acquire the permits or the contractors that we needed, or what was needed for the complete application, then your application would be deemed incomplete, would be withdrawn, and that's kind of the end of that. Now, you could always come back and reapply. That's not a problem, but until TDA sets the rules and the regulations in Texas, we will not be able to process that application through.
So it does rely on having a permit.
Yeah, so I'm talking about Texas, so depending, I know that we've got people from all over the country here, so depending on what's going on in your state, and there may be some hemp production out there. I know there is, as a matter of fact, in some states, but I don't know if I couldn't tell you there were pilot programs or how that came about, so I wouldn't be able to discuss that much further.
Thank you, Roel. So we also have Scott Reed, Chief for Farm Programs here. Scott, people often know FSA, I think, best for the loan programs that we have, but we also have other programs that we offer producers, particularly our disaster assistance program. So I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about that.
So, good afternoon, everyone.
Sir, could you use the microphone?
Yes, sorry. Good afternoon, everyone. As Roel, he was talking, he was mostly talking about farm loans, meaning that you would have to pay the money back. The programs I'm going to talk about are ones that, they're not grants. It's just, you come in, you apply, if you're eligible, FSA cuts you a check and pays you. So the first one I'm going to talk about is the NAP program, which is a non-insured disaster assistance program. This one is a crop insurance type program for crops that are not covered under the risk management agency underneath RMA. So RMA is another branch of USDA, and unfortunately they're not on the panel today, but RMA covers crop losses. FSA does the same thing for the crops that are not covered under RMA. So as a veteran farmer rancher, NAP has a service fee of $350. As a veteran farmer rancher, that can be waived if you meet the definition of the USDA veteran farmer rancher that Rael talked about earlier. So the insurance does not cost you anything, but it is insurance, meaning that you do have to come in timely and request the insurance. It's just not automatically given to you. You have to file paperwork to request the insurance. Once you have the insurance, it's just like any other insurance that you have, car insurance or your homeowner's insurance. If you have a loss, you have to come back to FSA and tell us you've had a loss in your crop. We don't know unless you tell us. And so once you have a loss, then you would also have to file an application for payment. Just like if you had a car accident, you tell your insurance company, hey, I had a car wreck, and then you file a claim. It's the same thing with us. You're telling us you have a loss, and then you file a claim at the end of the crop year, and we pay you on that crop loss. If you don't follow through all the steps, then there's no benefit that I can give you at the end. Just remember, it's a crop insurance type program. We also have livestock programs. The livestock programs are enacted by Congress in the 2018 Farm Bill. Every 4 years, Congress passes a Farm Bill, and these programs may change in the next one. But right now, I have 3 livestock programs that are in the 2018 Farm Bill. The first one is the livestock forage program. This pays livestock producers, this is cattle producers, sheep and goat producers, livestock producers in general. If you're in a county that has a drought of 8 weeks of a D2 rating based on the U.S. Drought Monitor, then you become eligible. Or if you hit a D3 or a D4 drought anytime during the grazing period, then you're eligible. All you have to do is come into the county office, tell us how many livestock you have, show us your farm number that you have, because you've already came in and contacted us, so we have that on record, and you provide us, if it's you own it, we already know it when you got your farm number, but if it's a cash lease farm, then you bring us in your updated lease, and we can calculate your payment for that drought loss. We also have the Livestock Indemnity Program, which is LIP. As FSA employees, we talk a lot in acronyms, and so when you're interacting with us, we're going to spit acronyms out at you, because we don't say Livestock Indemnity Program 100 times during the day. It's easier to say LIP. So LIP is a program that pays for livestock death losses above normal mortality, meaning I have a cow-calf operation, and it comes a thunderstorm, and my cows are all around the hay ring, and lightning struck the hay ring and killed 5 of my cows. I could potentially be eligible because the lightning strike is an eligible cause of loss. Same thing if I'm on the Gulf Coast of the United States and a hurricane hits, and several of my cattle drowned or washed out to sea, I could potentially be eligible for those livestock losses. Once again, you have to tell us you had a loss. We don't know unless you tell us. It's very important that you, when you realize you have a loss, that you tell us within 30 days of when that loss is apparent to you that this has happened. We're not saying that right after a hurricane, you come into the office. I'm saying when it is apparent to you. So secure your family, everything else, livestock comes second. Once you realize how many you've lost, then you tell us, and we can calculate a payment if one is due. And then the third program we have for livestock producers is the ELAP program, which is Emergency Livestock Assistance Program. This is kind of the catch-all. What Congress did is everything that's not covered underneath LFP or LIP falls into ELAP on the livestock side. So this would be the case where I have hay stored in a barn, and the river got out of the banks and flooded my hay barn. That hay is a complete loss. It's not eligible. I can no longer feed it to my livestock. So ELAP could cover that hay loss potentially. Same thing if hay bales wash down the river in the flood. That could also be a loss. Feed loss, if I have a bunch of feed in a silo, a bunch of corn in a silo, and a tornado hits the silo and blows it away, that's a loss. ELAP could cover that loss potentially. It's a feed loss program for feed that you have on your farm or ranch that is destroyed by a natural disaster. ELAP also captures our honeybee program. I don't know why Congress put honeybees in the ELAP program, but that's where they stuck it in the regulation. So it also covers honeybee losses. So if you are a bee producer, either raising bees for honey production, or raising bees for pollination, or raising bees for a breeding operation to sell queens and do splits, all those are covered in the ELAP if you have a loss due to a natural disaster. CCD is also covered under that for honeybees as a natural disaster, so colony collapse disorder is also covered. The main thing with that is just like all our other programs, you have to tell us you've had a loss for us to know that one exists. So within 30 days of when that loss is apparent, come tell your local office that, hey, I've lost my honeybees due to whatever the natural disaster may be. ELAP also covers fish operations. So if I have a fish farm and tidal surge from the hurricane came in and I got salt water in my freshwater ponds and it killed all my fish, that could be an eligible cause of loss under ELAP. Once again, you have to tell us you've had the loss for us to know, and do that within 30 days of when that loss is apparent. We also have a TAP program, which is tree assistance. If you are raising trees, bushes, or vines, and some sort of natural disaster causes those to die, we can help pay for the recall, help pay to replant those trees, bushes, and vines. This is kind of a cost share program, so we are paying you to actually replant. We're not paying you to just for the loss. You do have to actually replant them for us to pay you for that. The main thing with all the programs that I've talked about is that you do an acreage report. Acreage report is required for every one of these programs. Those have to be done timely. That means when you plant a crop, you come in, you tell us I've planted the crop. The other requirement is, or not a requirement, but I would strongly suggest when interacting with your local county office that you call ahead and make an appointment. The reason for that is that back in the day, 20 years ago, we had 10 to 15 people working in a county office. Now with budget cuts, we're basically down to 2 or 3 people per office working. The workload has not reduced on the staff, but the staff has reduced. So if you call ahead and tell us, and we give you an appointment date, then I have staff members that are dedicated to work with you at your said time. Whereas if you just walk in, we're going to get to you when we can get to you. So appointments is the way our county offices work. Please call ahead, make an appointment with us. That's the biggest thing I can stress on having a productive relationship with FSA.
Thank you, Scott.
Also, if you're just getting started, or you're thinking about getting started in farming or ranching, or you are currently farming or ranching but you haven't ever interacted with FSA, I strongly suggest that you contact us. If not, if you don't want to give us all your information to get a farm number, at least give us enough information to get your name and email address in our database so that you're on our Go Delivery info bulletins. That way you know what programs are out there and you know what the deadlines are for your county, because the deadlines in Texas are different than the deadlines in Nebraska. Acreage reporting seasons are different, growing conditions are different, so we have different deadlines for different programs in different counties across the nation.
So thank you so much, Scott. That's really helpful information. If you wouldn't mind, if you would just take 2 minutes and talk real quick, because I know there are 2, I think, other programs afterwards. You know, we hear a lot of military veterans who are interested in doing organic. So if you wouldn't mind talking about that, as well as our farm storage facility loan, just super quick. If folks want to learn more about that, please come up to us afterwards, but I want to make sure we cover that.
Organics, that every state's a little bit different on your organic certification. So all I can talk to you about is the way it's done in Texas. In Texas, the Texas Department of Agriculture is the one that's a certifying agency. They're the ones that certify you as being organic. FSA's role in Texas is to compensate you up to $750 for the cost of getting that organic certificate. So in Texas, you can get reimbursed one of two ways. One of two ways. You can do it through FSA or you can do it through TDA. If you do it through FSA, you just bring us in your organic certificate and we will cost share up to 75%, no more than $750 for the expense of getting that organic certificate. Or you can do it through TDA and it's the same rate. How TDA does it is a little bit different than FSA. The other program that she wanted me to mention is the foreign storage facility loans. This is different than Royal's programs that he was talking about. This is where you are already currently a operator of a farm or ranch or some sort of agricultural operation, and you have the need to store your commodity on your farm or ranch. This can be cold storage facilities. This could be a refrigerated truck. It's very open-ended as to what qualifies for it. It's based on your individual operation and what you're needing to store as to what we can do to help you with that. And that's done on the commodity side of FSA. When Roel was talking, there's two sides of FSA. I'm on the commodity side, so your local CED, your local county office will help you with the farm storage facility loan. Whereas if you're talking an operator loan or a farm ownership loan, then you would have to find the Farm Service Agency farm loan office to be able to get those done.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you so much. So, Josh, I know most folks probably got a chance to meet you last night and hear a little bit about your story, but I'm wondering if, you have participated in FSA programs in the past, so I'm wondering, and you currently still do, I believe, and so I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about those programs and why you participate in our programs and what you got out of them.
Yeah, absolutely. So essentially, can I just give some recommendations?
Yeah.
All right. So if you're a farmer or you're planning on starting a farmer, treat your FSA manager, I think y'all are calling them like executives or something, but the guy in charge of the office, treat him like a banker and you build that relationship with him, because those are the guys, and even like the secretaries, like I love greasing wheels every way, like every step along the way. And so I think it's incredibly important because those are the people that are telling you when deadlines are, or hey, the more they know about your operation, the more they can help you out. And because it's hard to keep up with all these programs that you don't even know if you would qualify for, you don't know if it's even worth your time. So you can spend hours and hours and hours like trying to get some grant or trying to get some cost share program or something, and it'd be a complete waste of time. But those secretaries, they know because they see the application, so definitely talk to them. I guess we're in both NAP, which is, I don't even know what all it stands for, and then also this livestock forage program. We sign up for both of those every year. And the reason we do is because those secretaries, every time I see them, they're like, hey, Josh, how's the operation going? Tell us a little bit about this year. And I'm always like, for example, this year, I walked in there, I'm like, man, it's dry as hell out here. They're like, well, let's file for your losses. I was like, what? The grass just didn't grow. I didn't know that was a loss, but it is. So, yeah. And so people, I think, forget that if you just treat them like actual humans, I know they work for the government and, everyone knows how I feel about that. But with that, they're still humans and they want to help. You just got to let them. And the best way to do it is just talk to them like human beings and tell them about your operation. So for example, I know on that particular program where I filed my losses, I think we had spent like $3,000 like fertilizing and weed spraying some pastures out there at the headquarters. And so I guess we got some check coming to us to reimburse us for that, whereas years in the past, I never even knew that was a thing that I could do. And then also we hit stage 3 drought this year. Like I knew it was real dry, and we did that over a period of only getting like a couple inches of rain, but it happened to be 105 every day, through August. So that drought monitor skyrocketed. And so we hit D3. And so to put it into perspective, everyone always wants to know, hey, is it worth my time? So I had my, like monthly meeting with the county committee over there, and we calculated it $70 per cow. So it's definitely worth your time. And, for example, some of those animals that, they got to be a 500-pound calf. You can't claim, the cow and the calf if it hasn't been weaned or not. But hell, $70, even if you're a small guy, it's still worth it. And the whole idea is that, hey, during a drought, you're going to have to, buy more hay or whatever. So they're just helping you. And on a kind of a big scale, that's why we're the best country in the world that can feed its own people, is because we have programs like this. So definitely take advantage of them. But yeah, those are the two that we use the most, is that NAP and then that livestock forage program.
That's good advice, thank you. Clearly we didn't vet, I'm just kidding. Jeremy, you're from our sister agency, Natural Resources Conservation Service, and I know a lot of military veterans in the audience use the Environmental Quality Incentives Program as well as other CASHA programs that you have. So I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about what that is and what it looks like to get started working with NRCS.
Sure. A brief background on our agency. Our agency was created back as a result of the Dust Bowl. We started out as the Soil Erosion Service, and then they moved it to the Soil Conservation Service. And then back in 1996, they changed our name to the Natural Resources Conservation Service, mainly because we were helping farmers and ranchers with more than just soil. We were helping them with all the natural resources. So these are off. There we go. So our mission, ever since we've been started, was helping people help the land. I know we're joking about government, but a guy I used to work with, he'd always joke, says, "We're from the government, we're here to help." And so I just break the ice, get people to laugh. But we do that. We help people help the land. Our programs that we have, the main one that people participate in and don't really realize they participate in is our Conservation Technical Assistance Program. This program is basically, you call our office, say, "I have this problem on my property, I'd like for y'all to come out and take a look at it." And we come out to your property, look at your property, go over it with you, discuss what your goals are on the property, what you're wanting to do, identify any resource concerns that you have on the property. And then we come back to you with different alternatives on how to treat those resource concerns. We do that, and the process of doing that is we develop a conservation plan for you, for your property. We lay out different alternatives, we schedule that out for you, and sort of gives you a roadmap on what to do on your property and how to get to where you want to go. And once you have this conservation plan, we then have financial assistance programs that could be eligible for. In those programs, we take certain practices that we have in your conservation plan and put them in an application. For the first program would be EQIP. Be the Environmental Quality Incentives Program, and we have a payment rate that we can pay for certain practices, such as if you do brush work or cross fencing, seasonal high tunnels. All of that would be eligible under this program. In different ways that you can apply for this program is either just a standard or regular farmer rancher, or we have the designations of historically underserved. In this 2018 Farm Bill, the veteran farmer rancher was added on there under this designation. And so there's a brief definition of what the veteran farmer rancher, how to qualify underneath that title. The benefits on this title through our programs is you would get a higher payment rate through the program than you would if you weren't eligible to claim this. And then also when we rank all of our applications, the veteran farmer rancher applications get ranked first. So that's a few things that, the other one is, that's brand new, is they're also eligible for an advance payment. We have not done advance payments in years. They just started this for historically underserved participants. They're eligible for advance payments, and what that is, it's up to 50% of what your contract obligation amount is. So the dollar amount that we have set up in your contract through this program, you could get up to 50% of that up front to help you purchase materials, require getting contracted services started. The only stipulation of that is you have 90 days to spend that money. If not, then you'd have to give it back, and you'd get it when you finish the practice. Another option that the NRCS is doing with veterans is giving veterans preference as far as employment with NRCS. You can go to usajobs.gov, and under the description, just type in NRCS, and they'll pop up all of the vacancies that we have nationwide. If you want to narrow that down, you can put your state in there that you're in. And the available jobs will come up, and then you can go through a brief description of what that job details, the qualifications that you would have to have. And we do give veteran preference as far as employment as well. So, and if you have any questions, I'll stick around for a little bit afterwards. And if or not, you can visit our NRCS booth out in the lobby. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeremy. And just right after, you talked about EQIP. So, you know, we do have Andrew Sanchez here who can talk a little bit about his participation in EQIP. And if you don't mind sharing a little bit more about yourself and how you came to participate in the program, what you use the program for.
Okay. Like I said, Andrew Sanchez, I run 60 head of cattle out in New Mexico. I applied for EQIP a few times and kept getting denied. And my state, Ted Turner, I don't know if any of y'all know him. He owns like 1/5 of all private land in New Mexico. And he has enough acreage where he was winning all the EQIP grants in our county. Because like they said, it's a point system, it's a ranking system. So he can pick what projects he does, and he has so much he can do it. But I kind of got pissed off, didn't want to work with the government because I felt it was being unfair. But like Josh was saying, if you treat them better and go in there and actually talk with them, they're there to help. And they realize the inequities of some of these situations. So I went down, I formed a relationship with my NRCS people, and they helped me choose projects that maybe I didn't look into. So what the main reason I did is New Mexico is a little bit dry, a little bit. So I needed to dig a new well. My grandparents were the last ones that actually lived on the ranch, and the well they had dug caved in, and it wasn't getting good water. We didn't had one natural spring on our property, and basically that's the only place the cattle were getting water. So what I used it for is I dug two additional wells, added a bunch of pipeline, and ended up doing about 25,000 gallons worth of storage that put in, I was just interested in the water stuff, but working with my NRCS, they brought up brush control, which I guess was a big point system for them to take my stuff over the top. I didn't have any problem with brush, and they came out and checked my place. They said, you don't qualify for it, you don't have enough invasive species or anything. But what they did help me out was erosion control. I had some areas that were eroding, and they put in some erosion control structures and stuff, and that was enough to bring my point system over the top. I did have to commit to more projects than I had really planned for, So that's my advice is, I mean, you know what you need, but also be willing to be open to other stuff, because they know what will help you qualify and everything else. And so I finally got qualified. I did have to do a few more projects, but thanks to the veteran status, I'm in my 7th year. So I qualified under the veteran because I'm less than 10. And I did get audited. They did make me bring in all this paperwork and extra paperwork after I got awarded. They're like, oh, are you sure? And I was, yes, I'm sure I'm a veteran, and I'm sure I haven't been doing this for more than 10 years, but I needed paperwork. So let me see what else notes. So basically, some of the projects like this last year, adding the pipeline and the water and everything else, the normal payout was like around $32,000 based on their payment structures. Because of the veteran status, I got like 38, so it was a huge jump, and it helped me out quite a bit. And the cool thing is they have the payment structure. So if you have the ability, they're not going to recheck on what you're contracting out, because they use a cost average across the state and everything else. So they just have what they're going to pay out at. So if you can find contractors, cheaper contractors, or if you can do any of the work yourself, you get to pocket money, which is also a good thing. But checking my notes. Oh yeah, I also had to work with the BLM on some of the stuff, because I had some BLM rental land, and they suck. They're worse than the NRCS. I almost so yeah. So I almost went default on my NRCS contract because I had to get permission from the BLM, and they had to send out like 50,000 investigators and inspectors and everything else. And are you sure you don't have any brown ground squirrels or something, and all this other stuff? And it was crazy. It took way too long, and I thought I was going to default on my stuff, but I worked, once again, that personal relationship. I worked with my NRCS agent, and I was going to go over the year requirement to do the project, and they said, well, all you got to do is start it, and they helped me identify, well, you can start this project on your private land, and as long as I started within the year, I still was okay within my contract. So they really helped me out and identified places where I could succeed. So I really like these guys, and I found working with them, taking the time to actually build that relationship was a lot better than just going in and asking for, hey, here's what I want, give me some money. So.
Thank you, Andrew. I think what I really appreciate about what you said and also what Josh shared is, you know, the perseverance that you also showed in, you know, developing relationships with your local offices. You know, we know that, you know, some of our programs sometimes can be a little bit of a challenge to apply for. And so, you know, I appreciate that you shared that. And I just throw one more question to you both is, you know, if you had to give advice to yourself, you know, now that you've participated in some of our programs and you have the benefit of hindsight, you know, what would you tell yourself, you know, as a farmer who's getting to know USDA?
Well, I'd say the best advice I'd, wish I would have done is like, man, I ain't been doing this thing like 5 years and never walked in that office. Literally, the only reason I walked into that office, because I was like, what the hell is a farm service agency? They probably should help out farmers. So I just walked in, and I was told, hey, come back, make an appointment. I'm like, hell, you guys, man, I'll never be back here. And, but, I kind of just started making friends in there. And like, for the most part, all those employees, they're farmers too, man. That's the only reason they're even there is because they think it's cool. And so just building that relationship right off the bat and do it like even before you start's cool. You can even tell them like, hey man, I've got an idea. I want to run with this. And they'll give you advice all along the way. Like they're all about helping you. You just got to let them help you. Yeah, so advice, hey, just go in there and make an appointment though. Yeah, they get, I don't understand it either. They get really grumpy. But yeah, make an appointment. I guess they are pretty busy with like paperwork and stuff. So yeah, make an appointment and sign up For the email updates, those are kind of important because otherwise you have no idea when these deadlines are. And, but what they won't tell you is that also, like, they can wiggle around those deadlines. Like, if you actually need the help, they'll figure out a way to make it work for you, but they're not gonna do it for some stranger, so that's why we, build those relationships. And it's amazing what, like, a $10 little bouquet of flowers will do for the little, it's amazing, remember their names, remember their kids' names. Like, it's amazing how much you can charm them and how far they'll go to help you out. Yeah, that's my advice. Yeah.
Thank you, Josh. Also, please follow deadlines. Okay. Andrew, any other advice?
All right. I just piggybacking on what Josh said, it's all about the relationship. I think when I first went in the office, I don't know how many people, I was active duty and I'm National Guard. So I think when I first went in the office, I was approaching it like you would approach finance on the active duty side. Hey, this is your job, here's the paperwork, do all this stuff. On the National Guard side, if anybody knows finance, you don't get paid unless those people have, like you said, flowers, a bottle of booze goes a long way. Because filing through finance on the National Guard is a pain in the ass, but if you make friends with the finance office, they help you out quite a bit, and your vouchers move to the top of the stack. It's amazing. And that's what I did with the NRCS. I was just taking my application, hey, here it is. This is the practices I want to do. And it never went through. And then once eventually I talked with them, made friends with the NRCS, they helped me out. They got my project approved, and then now they come up to me with, oh, hey, here's more advice, here's more projects you can do, but some of the stuff I don't want to do, so just know what you want to do, because they will give you a lot more projects and information than you could really use if you make too good of friends with them, because then they just want to come out and help you even more.
Thanks, Andrew. I do have to pause and say here that we treat everybody equally in our offices. We do follow program regulations and guidelines, but I do think the one thing to kind of pull out of what Josh and Andrew were sharing is that, our folks, and I think Scott may have mentioned this too, a lot of our folks, they come from farm families, they farm themselves, or their spouses also farm a ranch, and so, they have a lot of experience to share, and so developing those relationships, getting to know them, and listening to some of the experiences that they have is really valuable. So, we do encourage you to come into our offices, get to know us, so that we do have that opportunity to share with you. So I want to talk a little bit, real quick, because we got to get to Jolie as well. I want to talk a little bit about opportunities for farmer input and leadership development. So Scott, I think one of the most unique things about Farm Service Agency is the fact that we have something called county office committees. And I think not a whole lot of farmers are aware of this, but it's essentially an advisory board, an elected advisory board of farmers in every county who help advise Farm Service Agency. They help us make decisions. They do outreach on our programs. They help hire the local county executive director in that office. So, when I talk to military veterans and I talk to our other customers, and, they talk about the things that they would love to see FSA be doing, I always encourage them, hey, get involved in your local COC. And so, Scott, if you wouldn't mind just talking about that, and then Josh, I know that you serve on your local county committee, if you wouldn't mind just sharing, like, super quick, some of your insights.
The FSA County Committee is unique to all over the government agencies there is. The county committee is the one that decides on the programs I was talking about, not the farm loan, but on the programs that Congress enacts. The COC is the one that approves or disapproves those applications. They are the decision maker for the county office. I'm a bureaucrat. I cannot approve an application or disapprove an application. Josh, as an elected member of the COC, can. That's the difference. That's what makes FSA, what makes me want to work for y'all, is because I can't say yes or no. All I can do is follow the handbook. Somebody else makes the decision to approve or disapprove. The county committee has lots of authority. They're the ones that hires the county executive director, the CD, the office manager. They hire that boss. That office manager then hires a staff. So it's kind of like your local school board. Your school board hires a superintendent. Superintendent hires all the school teachers that works for them. So the COC has lots of, I don't know if might is the word, but they have lots of influence. And people in Washington listens to them. If you go up there and you say you're a member of the COC, well, you are an elected person for your county office, for your county that you live in. You're one of the three that the producers elected, so you have a lot, when people talk, they listen to you up in DC.
Yeah, so I got elected to this role, and I did when I had no idea what it was, but I wasn't happy with Farm Service Agency because I didn't feel like they were doing enough for farmers. But most of that was because I didn't understand how it worked. So now I get to kind of see it on the inside. Like you were just saying, that like we have the, I guess, authority to approve all of these programs. I approve 100%. Like, I've never not approved of anything. I don't think anything's ever even gotten as far as me that I didn't approve. And the reason for that is because you have to, in order for it to even come in front of me, or, you know, there's other members, it's not just me, there's 3 for Travis County. And in order for it to even come in front of us, you have to meet all the requirements. So if you took the time, you did that, and you're actually operating, then, you know, you're approved in my books. We want to help out farmers as much as possible. So we approve everything. And also on that, we're the feedback to the actual USDA office, or the Farm Service Agency office. So, because we're actually out there operating, we're actually out there farming. So we give the feedback that, hey, this is the situation, this is what's going on out there. And whenever I have buddies or guys in my, you know, constituents, I guess you would call them, whenever they they complain or they're struggling with something in the season, like, I can take that directly to that office manager, and we can push that right up, say, hey, this program doesn't work. And the best example of that is on this tariff war we're in with the soybean issue. They were gonna pay off of last year. So if you are a young and beginning farmer and you only had 100 acres of soybeans last year, but since then you've grown to, let's say, 1,000 acres, they were only gonna subsidize, because of the tariff war, the prices for your last year's crop. And I said, no, that's completely wrong, because it's really, it's not helping those guys that are trying to grow. So we changed that. So it's pretty cool. It's a good spot. I highly encourage you to do it. And it's paid, like, not very, hardly anything, but for the days you're in the office, you get paid something.
Thank you. And then on the conservation side, Jeremy, do you want to talk super quick about soil and water conservation districts? They have a slightly different relationship with NRCS, but, you know, that is also another opportunity. You know, we talk about professional development as well as just input into, you know, how programs work and what the local ag community looks like for you. Soil and water conservation districts are also an opportunity to serve.
Yeah, with the local soil and water conservation districts, the one that I'm in the district conservationist for, what we do is, as far as NRCS, we work with that local board. It's the board has 5 members. They're all local landowners in that district. We meet once a month. We go over, discuss what's going on in the county. The main deal with this board is each year for the next program year, and like EQIP, is we have a local work group meeting. These Soil and Water Conservation District board members, they put on this meeting, and the public's invited to them. And what we do at this meeting is identify what the people in the county or the district is wanting to see made high priority. And what I mean by that is sort of, say, brush management is a practice that they wanted to see made high priority in the EQIP ranking. So if an application comes in and they want brush management, through our ranking process, after we answer our national priority issues, state priority issues, we get to the local issues. And if they answer yes to that, then they're going to get a whole lot more points in their ranking score. If they want to do something that's not high priority, well, then they're going to get less of score as far as the ranking. And the way the program's funded is all the applications, once they're ranked, they're put in order from the highest ranking score up top and the lowest at the bottom, and we start at the top of the list and fund till we run out of money. or run out of applications. And luckily, I've ran out of applications before, so we have another. Yes, sir.
Yes.
Is there a tool, resource, or database or something that shows what the points are made of and where the different places, different areas to get points from, so that you can proactively put together your program, put together your form, put together your projects to maximize the points?
I believe, like, for the NRCS in Texas, on the state's website, state NRCS's website, they do have a list of the different counties and the different resource concerns that were marked high priority, medium, or low. I would highly encourage landowners to participate in these meetings. I know most offices, the only people that show up are the board members of the SWCD. But I would reach out to your local NRCS office and ask when the next local work group meeting is going to be, because we do actually have to have them done by March. So they're going to be getting scheduled here pretty quick. So you just get with your local NRCS office on when those meetings are going to be.
Thanks, Jeremy. So I think what we're hearing is there's a really important feedback loop. You know, we do depend on, you know, our farmers and ranchers who work with us to let us know what's working and what's not working. You know, and the makeup of these county committees as well as these soil and water conservation boards really matter. We're going to transition real quick. Julie's been waiting super patiently for us to talk through our programs. But, you know, Julie, can you talk a little bit about what the National Appeals Division does and where your office comes into play?
Absolutely, and actually picking up on your point in this feedback, what we'd like to say is don't go away mad, come to mad. Because if something has fallen through the cracks, through the process that you've heard of here, then you can come to NAD. If maybe you missed one of those deadlines, hopefully you got on the website, or you got on the email list, and you've got a good relationship with your loan officer or with your program specialist, and you're in good communication. But sometimes things do go awry. And hopefully that's few and far between, but when it does go awry, you have a right to file an appeal if you're denied that loan that you requested, or that your application is denied. So you can come to NAD. It's a free process. And at the very least, you're going to learn more about why you were denied so that you can reapply and have better success or chance of success next time. And in a lot of cases, I think our statistics, I read them for the last 10 years, in about over a third of cases that we see result in some favorable outcome from the appellants who come to us. Now that may not be a full win, but maybe they go back and the agency reconsiders their decision, or the appellant says, oh, I see, I just need to reapply next time because I have to fix this. So it's an opportunity for you to learn to actually prevail, and our director actually has the authority to provide something called equitable relief. Anybody in the audience familiar with the term equitable relief? Okay, well that's where you can win when you lose. So let's say you missed a deadline, or somehow that there's weather that prevented you from getting to plant back 40, or somehow you got the wrong information from your program specialist. Those are all situations when you could come to NAD and say, listen, yeah, I didn't comply with the program requirements, but here was the situation. I was prevented from fully complying. And given your situations and what you were present to us, our director may grant you equitable relief and allow you to qualify for the program, or award you with benefits even though there was a technicality that you didn't comply with. So I think the statistic that I saw in the past 10 years, out of the appellants who had requested equitable relief, 46% of them received some form of equitable relief. So, how many people receive relief who don't request it? Right. So, like we say, don't go away mad from an ad. It's free to you. At most, it costs you this postage stamp, and you don't even have to spend a postage stamp because you can file online. But if you don't want to hassle with online filing, you can write us a letter, fax. We hear cases from loan denials to sometimes, it may be something like the amount of benefits you think is wrong. We'll hear cases they really will track with what's going on in the farming world. Sometimes it has to do with disasters. There'll be, we'll get a huge influx, not huge, because by and large, we have dedicated employees who do a great job in the offices who you just heard from. But for instance, we've had some cases out of our region dealing with wildfires. With hurricanes. So it just depends. But think about us, know that you have an appeal right. It's an opportunity for you to learn something at the very least. And if you have questions, I'll be out here. Monique Broadnex is one of our administrative judges, and she's here as well. She has her hand up there. So come see us.
And Jolie, how do people get in touch with NET? So you say file an appeal. What does that mean? Where do people go?
You can call our office, and I have brochures back on the table. You can call us, you can write to us. Go to www.nat@usda.gov. So look at our website, and like I said, there's an online tool to file an appeal. Go to the website for additional information, see me, and I can give you a pamphlet. And one thing I do want to leave you with is you want to ask for an appeal though within 30 days of receiving an adverse decision. So if there's something you want to appeal, don't sit on it. Go ahead and get in touch with us, all right?
Thank you so much to our panel. Can we just give folks a round of applause up here? So we have a little bit of time left for questions. If you wrote anything down on a card that you want our folks to grab, go ahead and raise those up in the air. And I think we have a mic to use, right? No mic? Okay, so if you do have a question and you'd like to ask it, please raise your hand and speak super loudly. Okay. Yes, in the back, because you wanted to ask a question before.
I think I'm loud. I think I'm too loud. But I'm Jenny. I'm new to farming, and I've been a veteran. I've had veteran status since 2006. So my issue is words mean things. And if I haven't been in this room, I've been on the USDA website. I've seen that qualification for veteran several times, and I've been dissuaded to apply for anything. I forget his name. Yes.
Jeremy.
I can't forget, I just can't see it, sorry. So you said that there's higher payment rate through the program, preferential ranking and advanced payments for anybody with first obtained status as a veteran. It doesn't make sense. I'm not even that old. I'm not the oldest veteran in the room. But according to these slides, I don't qualify for a lot of this stuff. And I understand that you said that that's the congressional verbiage.
Yeah, to get the veteran status, you have to, one, be a veteran, and then you also have to qualify as a beginning farmer rancher. You got to be both of those.
That's not what that said.
I guess to follow up on that, isn't the beginning farmer rancher, weren't they already being served under this type of thing, and then so adding that, why? What was the point? Or
That's how they wrote it in the Farm Bill.
So, yeah, there's a lot of veterans that don't know. And also the Congressional Office of Information, they show very clearly in a graph, and I'd be happy to provide that to any of you out there. So I don't have that on me, but it's the vast majority of veterans go into farming significantly later than 10 years after they've separated from their service. It's over 500% greater than the people that fall in that first window. So it's interesting that they disenfranchise a larger percentage of the people who are eligible.
So in real life, I am a veteran, 15 years in the Marine Corps. It's hard to say that I'm a farmer, I'm 3 years in, right? I am farming, but according to this, I don't qualify as a veteran farmer.
You do, because it's either So it's either or. So my first DD 214 was 2008, and when I applied, all I had to show was I was farming less than 10 years.
Okay,
And I got paid off as the veteran status because of my DD 214, but at the same time, it's or farming less. So if you're farming at 3 years, you qualify as a veteran farmer. It doesn't matter how long. It's either or. It's either you're veteran less than 10 years or a farmer less than 10 years.
Thank you for catching that, Andrew. I've missed the part where you're saying that you've been farming for 3 years, so you are a beginning farmer.
You qualify.
As a beginning farmer, not as
But as a veteran.
Yes, but under the definition.
I know what you're saying, because they already have a definition for beginning farmer. Oh, sorry. They already have that definition as a beginning farmer, which is less than 10. So it's almost like a dual. They fall under the same definition. So you're not opening the door to more people.
But then let's add to that.
There's an and there.
It says and.
The reason they included this veteran deal is they're also, through the EQIP program, the fundings, they have separate pools of money, one for beginning farmer ranchers, one for socially disadvantaged farmer ranchers, and then they got another pot of money that they've set aside for veteran farmer ranchers. So if you qualify for that, there's another pool of money that's set aside just for the people that qualify under this program as the veteran farmer ranchers. But yes, you do have to be a veteran and a beginning farmer rancher to qualify as this.
Can I add that to my question? So again, I'm an OEF aerobat. Somebody asked me last night at the bar if I served in Vietnam, because I thought that around here, so that's great. For the Vietnam era and older guys, right? OEF, we get a lot of shit. There's a lot of programs out there because we're vocal and we're active and we're online. So then what about the guys who are in this room, or ladies, who have been farming for 10 or 15 years, and suddenly they're seeing all this stuff come out for veteran farmers. They are veteran farmers, but they're not.
Yeah, thank you for that question. I think the best answer that I would be able to give is contact your elected representative. So that's something that the definition is given to us in the Farm Bill. Congress establishes the definition for military veteran when it pertains to our programs. Raul did say before, you are still a military veteran, but it just happens to be for eligibility for some of these incentives that we have within our programs. And so that is just a limitation. Do you want to add anything, Raul? And then I do want to make sure we get to some other questions too.
Yeah, so just because I'm listening what's going on, right? So yes, in an RCS, there's a difference in how payouts are done and so forth. I just want to be clear that even though we're one USDA, there's different program eligibility criteria for different programs, different loans. And I just want to be clear that when I addressed you, sir, earlier, that we've got the beginning farmer definition and we've got a veteran. It's a definition for us, and basically that's all it is, because we're not making any difference. We're not targeting any funds for veterans. You're treated as just a definition for us. You've always been a veteran. You'll always be a veteran, regardless of how long ago or how recent you've done it. So I'm speaking on the farm loan program side. Okay, so just to be sure that we understand that NRCS may have some different eligibility criteria, or they meet different standards. That might be different for even within FSA on the commodity side. Okay, so just to be clear, I would check with my local office.
But I would say, we've gone to Senator Roberts, chairman of the Senate Ag Committee, because he's from Kansas, I'm from Kansas, and we brought that to his attention, that under NRCS, on the payout, if you've been out of the military for more than 10 years, you do not receive the higher payout. if you're a beginning farmer rancher like the gal back there, within 3 years, you meet that definition. I would just say, for the states that are here, go to your elected representatives and get them to pull that ore. That's simply, they pull the ore out. Because we told Senator Roberts, you know, he's a retired Marine, a long time ago, he said, dude, you won't derive a benefit. And he was kind of flabbergasted. He didn't realize that language was put in farming. And unfortunately, that affects a lot of the older farmers or value-added farmers. They've been row cropping for so many years. Now they want to go to NRCS to get value-added because crop prices are depressed. And that's where we really started at in Kansas. Because if you got a row cropper or traditional farmer, and he's looking for that value added to offset the lower grain prices, he can do produce or something and up his, but he could not, or he or she could not get the higher pay. And they didn't qualify under beginning farmer rancher because they've been farming for 20 years.
So I want to try and get in one more question because we are at 4:15. I will also just mention, we got a lot of cards from folks with specific questions, so if you want to follow up afterwards with us, we are here. I also see some other USDA staff in the room, so if you see somebody with a USDA badge.
My name is Betty. I'm from West by God, Virginia. Put my name on them questions, and I will be by later to get to you.
Thank you. Thank you. One in particular, we talked about county committees today, and there was a question about, from one of these cards about, feeling like sometimes the county committees are a little insular and asking, I guess my question would be, how do you break in? So Scott, can you just talk really quickly about what the election process looks like? How does a farmer get on a ballot, and what can a farmer do?
So the election process for the county committee, each county is physically divided into different LAs, local administrative areas. Each LA holds an election every year. So if I have 3 LAs, I'm voting in LA 1 for this year. Next year is LA 2, the next year is LA 3, and it rotates like that. You serve a 3-year term on the county committee. To get on the ballot, you're on the ballot for the LA that you reside in. So if I lived in LA 1, I would get put on the ballot if I want to run when LA 1 is up for election. So to get on the ballot, you contact your local county office in the month of June or July and say yes.
An office in every county in the rural part of this country.
There is a county office that represents every county in the United States. So there is in Texas, for example, and I don't know West Virginia, but in Texas, for example, here I have Travis County, and then there's Bastrop County. That's served out of 2 offices with 1 CED. Right next door to them, they have Colwell-Hayes-Comel. There's only 1 county office in Caldwell, Texas, that serves all 3 counties. That county committee structure, it could be up to 9 members. I do not know how it's structured, or it could just be 3 members. It's however the COC decided when they combined all 3 into one, how they wanted it to be structured. If it's 1 person from each county, so the LA is a complete county, or if the LA is divided inside of each county office. But to get on the ballot, you request to be put on the ballot in the month of June or July. You do that yourself, or another farmer or rancher can nominate you without you even knowing that they want you to be. I could write your name in and request that you be on the ballot. The county executive director would contact you and say, are you willing to serve? They won't tell you who nominated you, but they would ask you if you're willing to serve. And if you are, then that's how you get on the ballots. The ballots get mailed out the first part of November, and elections, the ballots are counted in December, and then the new elected COC member takes office in January.
So I see the door open, so I think that's our cue to wrap up. But, thank you all for participating, for asking questions. We'll stay afterwards if you have any follow-up questions for us. Thank you so much.